I don't know if it's completely obvious. If you can tell, I've been reading from a script for most of the episodes I've been putting out here these last few weeks. Today, however, we're going to be a little off rails. Depression is a real thing, one that continuously pushes down even when you're trying to get up. One of the things we struggle with consistently, especially nowadays, is the idea that those of us, or rather people who came before, lived in a time where there was a surplus of things for very little give. And now, life just has to have you working at 4 times the amount of effort for even a chance at the same thing people had before. Part of the reason I even did this kind of thing was particularly because I wanted to relive some of the memories I had during, making content in 2014 to about 2017. And I've gone back and looked at a lot of the videos from Skyward Sword to even the Portal 2 content with a good friend of mine back in high school. I mean, I must have been, 16, 17 when those videos came out? I sound roughly the same, if not maybe a tad bit deeper. I wanted to make these videos to feel closer to that, but also to provide a sense of closure. Like, I went back and ended everything the right way by pouring my creative outlook into stuff now and just seeing what sticks. A lot of it is video games, just cause that's who I am. Yes, Javi, you are video games, but more so, there are a lot of facets that kind of hit where my life is at, and I'm sure how many of us have grown up and changed a lot of our outlooks on everything. For example, I got my vision fixed in end of 2014 into 2015, and I mean, I experienced a lot of new things, and I'm still, to this day, there are many things I try and I'm amazed by. I can still go on walks and just look at the sun or see the stars in the sky at night and still be bewildered. It's still so fascinating and new having this for going on 9 years now, maybe 8.5. Board games and card games are also new on the table, and I'm doing those quite regularly. I do shout out to channels we're streaming on to a small audience, but it is mostly an escape for us to do those games. I have discovered a intense love of roleplay and creating characters, and have gotten back into writing myself, and have spent a good part of this year world building for a novel that I've always kind of had in the back of my mind, but I'm now putting thought to paper. I suppose what today's thought process is to tell you about the joys of roleplay in the most roleplay fashion, and by that I mean there's no script here. I'm just kind of talking, and I'm sure it shows with how scrambled the brain is currently. I started role-playing in 2021. I was introduced outside of Dungeons and Dragons to Monster Hearts midway through one of their games. We did them in seasons, and I joined at the end of season 1 in a midpoint to kind of introduce myself and another player into the world to see if we would stick around. I didn't realize at that time that I had created a character that would resonate so heavily with who I am. One side of the character was like a brutish, like BROODISH, not like brutish, like strong kind of character who used magic to get even with people and didn't really quite fit in, like a social outcast almost. But then I mixed him, based on the story we had later, completely off topic, to this god. He was attached to Fenrir, but we kind of worked it out that this Fenrir wasn't exactly the evil bringer of Ragnarok at that point. It was still a puppy just recently chained by Odin, so it didn't have that violent streak unless I became into what's called Darkest Self, where you act at your worst until you're cured. So I went with it, and we went kind of memey with it, turned Fenrir into Fenny, taught it memes and all kinds of crazy things. But that's just resonated with me. That's who I am. I have a mask of silly behavior, and underneath I'm contemplating whether or not I belong anywhere. And it's easy to fall into that habit, even when you have reasonable people telling you straight up that you belong somewhere. As I've mentioned probably several times throughout this season of content, I suffer from imposter syndrome, which I'm self-diagnosed, so it's probably even pretentious of me to say it this way. I don't really feel like I've ever accomplished anything, or that I deserve the things that I have. I mean, I have my wife, who I love dearly, a phenomenal friend group, a loving family. I have tons of games, consoles, and a computer that I've bought with my own money, and a YouTube channel that's more popular than Markiplier. But despite all that, am I just lucky? And there's so many people that don't have even a fraction of what I have, and I don't really have much in the grand scheme. So what am I really even doing with my life? It sometimes graduates to darker thoughts, but I suppose the reality of it is that's an end point. To just end it all is a permanent solution to a very temporary problem. Things can always get better, but they can't get better if you just stop living. And I don't mean to come off as I'm contemplating now. Just things get intrusive sometimes, and I'm sure it's happened to others in their depression. I realize this video is darker than other ones, and I apologize, but I wanted to take this time to categorize where I am, especially before I start dipping into game reviews and seeing the more creative side and silly side of everything around me. This is, I suppose, a public showing of the real person behind the stupid voices and silly videos. We all have dreams. We're young and aiming high, or had reality smack us hard and We want to reach for something more attainable. Dreaming is a large part of what makes us human. Thinking of achieving the impossible or reaching the insurmountable kind of aids us in holding on and seeing what the next day brings. Without the dream of a better tomorrow, what's the point of tomorrow? There's nothing to hope for if everything ends. There's always a dream to be had. They could be small goals or giant lifelong journeys. I just need you to close your eyes and think on what might be holding you back. It doesn't cost anything to hope for a better tomorrow, and it definitely doesn't cost anything to dream. I mean, let's look back. Look at the videos so far. They're a recollection of one nerd's small journey that went nowhere. But I mean, I did it. I made video after video. At the time, I thought about striking it big, but now I look back, I realized it was more for myself. I loved doing it and had the time to do it, so it was magical in its own way, even though it's a bit dated now. The inner human psyche is a complex behemoth of moving parts, thoughts, rude gestures. I won't even pretend I understand all of it. I did psychology in high school, but I'm not a professional. There's been a big shift over the last few decades that's made achieving what we desire all the more difficult. The confident can-do attitude of the last couple generations kind of created a stagnancy. I don't mean to go into a political sphere, which is gonna happen anyway, but generations tend to be the near opposites of each other. New things get invented and embraced, and your attitude tends to shift with time. Another invention will take its place, and then the cycle begins all over again. Gotta be the same thing with mentality. There was a large pushback for women having the rights they do now, and today I can't even imagine a world where women aren't my equal. Millennials and the generations after them have started to break the mold of emotions in society that we've been trying to hide. We have a rate of open thinking, outward emotions, and kind of blatant disagreement that would kind of be seen as mental illness or behaviors that needed curing back then. But they're a part of what makes our legacy strong. They're also part of what makes us weak. It's a double-edged sword. I need you to think back. Is there something you've enjoyed doing that you feel you can't do because you're not good at it? Or something that you've never tried because you're afraid of what might happen if you're not good at it? Anxiety is a real struggle, both personally for me and looking outward to a lot of people around me. It all circles back. Dreams are part of our lives that we crave, be they new experiences or old ones. We see ourselves in our heads, rock stars on a stage or accepting awards for the stories we write and tell. And you know, the world is cruel in the way that we have access to so much technology to get out there quickly, yet so many talented individuals will remain hidden away. Long story short, get out there and try. The worst that can happen is that it doesn't quite work out. But you tried, and you should be proud. Video ends here. Later.